welcome to Up Close with Carlos Sang, celebrating art, entertainment, and the human spirit. So Jordan Metcalfe, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, Carlos.
So you were last on the Olivier stage, back in Jack Absolute Flies Again, just a few years ago. How does it feel to be back at the National and you to perform on the Olivier stage again?
Yes, it feels great. It's as good as it gets. It's brilliant. It's a completely different show. It was a gag-heavy World War II fighter pilot farce by Richard Bean, and now this is quite a very serious tragedy by Shakespeare and Lyndsey Turner. Amazing to have those two contrasts.
Yeah, I feel like the Olivier is like the perfect space for this play as well. It's got that epic feel, obviously, but also offers that sense of intimacy too for Coriolanus, which I think this play really needs. What is it like, getting to step out on that stage, performing in that space in particular?
It's incredible. It's unique in that, yeah, it looks absolutely massive because it is massive, the stage and the auditorium. But I guess the magic of it is that when you stand on there, it feels a lot smaller. So it has that kind of epic feel, but also the intimacy of being, a meter apart and feeling like you're much closer to the audience as well. And I think that's kind of its uniqueness. Yeah. And it serves. I'm guessing I've seen quite a lot on the Olivier, but it serves Shakespeare really well. That kind of epic and also domestic, because the images can be clearer. You know, um, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess also like coming to the character of Brutus as well. I feel like he's probably one of the most important characters in Shakespeare's canon of plays, and yeah, he's got such a presence throughout this play and symbolizes so many virtues and ideals. Where do you begin when approaching a character like Brutus?
Yeah. Well, I guess to take the pressure off, I would begin like I begin anything, which is quite practically learning the lines, getting the language in my mouth. And guess that's also peppered with, whilst I'm sort of burrowed away, learning all the lines and the scenes before I start rehearsals. I also look up, positive inspirational quotes that encourage silence over speaking. And because I think when you get in the room and in rooms, I guess like this at the National or the RSC, you're with big brilliant actors and they just dive in, and I can certainly get swept away in other people's energies and want to dive in too, and then end up going too quick and splashing about and not being specific. So I guess I keep it practical to take the pressure off, to learn the lines and get the language in, so I can leap in as best I can and not make too many decisions.
Mm.
I think when meeting Lyndsey, she had pretty clear idea about what she wanted to do with peace and also part of Brutus. So I gently sort of did some, research on current politicians from Michael Gove to David Miliband, even though he's not a politician anymore. And then also characters from Dickens, like Seth Pecksniff from Martin Chuzzlewit. Just because, they're just ingredients that I guess make line learning a bit less tedious. And also stuff that you can just pop in the pot for when you start dancing about in the rehearsal room. So it's not just I know my lines, just tell me where to stand. You're not sort of waiting for cues. Yeah, whatever sets you up best, I guess. That's how I approach it. So it's a long-winded way of trying to take the pressure off playing a significant part in a Shakespeare.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your character, he very much goes head to head with the title character, Coriolanus. And how do you sort of see that conflict unfolding on stage in this production too?
I'm very excited. We've already. Uh, I'm excited because it's sort of already started happening in the room, but I have no idea how it's gonna play out. I guess that's part of the joy of what we do is as actors. Yeah, is that you kind of have to surrender and keep yourself open to what other people are going to bring, and there's a trust there, and I think that's the most exciting bit is that you don't know what's going to happen. Ideally, Lindsay's definitely got a shape or or an image of what she might want the scene to look like. We've also got a fight director who's brilliant, Sam, and yeah, me and David.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I have no idea. I'll tell you after the first preview.
Yeah, what have those conversations been like with Lyndsey Turner as well, on, finding things in the play that would resonate with an audience today too?
Yeah, I mean, we did. There was about nine of us that did a sort of like 3 week kind of week minus one. I think we're on week 4 or 5, depending on who you are and how you look at it. So we spent about a week, in fact 2 weeks, around the table, and Lindsay is forensic and fastidious and very detailed about the world she's creating, which is great. We got handed, packs, and we did stuff around the table talking about what it was like to be in what it was like to be in ancient Rome, but also to do the play now.
Mm,
So there's a respect for where we're coming from, but also she wanted to set the play in a place calling itself Rome.
yeah.
So it was now, but it also harks back to, how citizens and ancient Rome behaved then. I play one of the tribunes, so Brutus and Sicinius are one of the tribunes, and I think in real time, in actual historical, in the historical timeline, this is when tribunes were just invented.
Mm.
So that was like really brilliant and really fresh, and I guess the most interesting thing to play with. The idea that we don't actually know the job in hand, we're just making it up on the spot and as we go along. So things like that were dotted in, but there was a kind of early decision to not have mobile phones and guns,
Of course.
just because I guess the tragedy would be over in about 10 minutes. Yeah, it wouldn't be much of a story. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting as well, the last show that you did was Love's Labour's Lost at the RSC, which I came along to see as well.
Oh, did you? Oh,
I did,
great.
loved it so much. You got to reunite with Emily Burns, of course, after Jack Absolute.
I did. Yeah.
And you got to play this very comedic part in this, very funny production of a very funny show. But I feel like, Boyet, he's also very wise, and he's got that perceptiveness about him too. Similar to Brutus in some ways, but also different, of course, as well. Are these sort of like character traits that you're particularly drawn to as an actor as well?
I mean, yeah, I definitely. I sort of get what I'm given, but I am very much attracted to those traits because those two traits that you mentioned, was it wise and perceptive?
Yes.
I guess they leave the maximum amount of room for interpretation. So yeah, I guess unless someone's standout comedian or standout clown, it just leaves a lot to figure out in the room, which is exciting
Mm.
because you don't know what you're going to do on the first day. But, for Emily, who I'd worked with before, so we had a relationship, a working relationship, but I had no idea what her plan for Boyet was. Um, and so I was a bit nervous about what she was expecting I was going to do, because I guess she did somewhere in her head. Um, yeah, hopefully I did exactly what she had planned. But we definitely figured that out in the room, and it became more about, for both of us, what we didn't want him to be. Um, and so yeah, I guess whatever was the most authentic and interesting. Um, yeah, it's always nice to try and do something new with the part. And I guess also coming back to like the earlier question about the pressure and the prestige of playing these roles in Shakespeare, it gets away from that. If you try and bring you to the part, then you can kind of sidestep
Mm.
the expectations as much.
Of course. I mean, you've done a bit of Shakespeare the last few years as well, of course, doing Romeo and Juliet and The Winter's Tale as well. How challenging is it, finding new things in these plays, while having, an awareness that these plays have been done, many, many times previously too?
I think the challenge with it for me is that you make sense of the language.
Mm.
There always feels like an added pressure. God, I'm saying the word pressure quite a lot.
Yeah.
You started. Um, um, there always feels like an added pressure to make it sound human and of the human earth. Um, yeah, I think as a breed, I'm talking boldly now, as a show offs, and they like decorating and grabbing the attention and making interesting choices. And it's it's a really brave actor that can dare to be boring and take their time and yeah, make it sound like it was just said in that moment in 2024. Um, I think yeah, I certainly feel that as a kind of culture and in the culture of the rehearsal room. You can be like, when can I next do my handstand or my or my splits, which we got into Love's Labours. Please, come on, let me show off. So yeah, so there's the added pressure of Shakespeare and making it sound noble, I guess. But it's the same as any other play or production, I'd say.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like Love's Labour's Lost, it very much heralded this new era as well for the RSC, with the arrival of Daniel Evans and Tamara Harvey
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What was it like, being up there as well, and working alongside this cast who, for many of them was the first time working at the RSC too?
It was great. I mean, and Emily's vision for the show was fantastic. Tech Billionaires Island. The set was magnificent. It was really exciting, really, really exciting. And yeah, there was loads of people that had never been to the RSC, and also not that I'd ever done a Shakespeare at the RSC before. I'd done a couple of other modern plays. But yeah, there was loads of people that was straight out of drama school. And even Tony Gardner, who I treat of sharing a dressing room with, I'd actually worked with him a couple of times before. Dear Tony Gardner, and it was his first time, so he was the most excited. No one had as much energy as Tony Gardner, and that was so infectious and just a joy to be around. And yeah, it really breathed life into the play and being there. It was mega exciting being part of the inaugural season. Dan and Tamara were there all the time at previews and yeah, making
Yeah.
sure we were looked after and supported. It was great. It's such a lovely place to work because it's all there. Your rehearsal rooms and the cottages are opposite, and yeah, it's sort of like actors' dreamland.
Mm.
But which is also probably quite dangerous as well because you forget that the real world exists sometimes.
Of course. Yeah, it was a wonderful place. And I guess,
Yeah.
similarly down here in a way, we're sort of coming to the end of Rufus Norris's tenure here at the National Theatre.
Mm.
I know that you first performed here, back in 2003, as a young David Tennant, in was it The Pillow Man?
Yes, well, I took over from David Tennant's cast, yeah,
Yeah.
but I played young Couturian, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how would you
Uh,
say like the National Theatre has changed as well over the time too?
gosh, well, I would say, I guess the audiences and actors and body of work feels more inclusive. The palette's broader. The audiences are more diverse and younger. I think it's a shame that there isn't the rep system anymore because I think, being around 8 or 9 different companies was really exciting because sometimes you can forget as an actor that other actors just love other actors, by and large. I guess we're called lovers for a reason because there's just so much, yeah, there's just so much joy in being around actors. They're the best. And yeah, getting to know loads of people that you're not actually working with is great because then you sort of build your own community when you're going for a coffee or a beer or whatever. And it's nice to see someone that you've bumped into in the corridor. You kind of feel part of it. So yeah, it's a shame but I think that was one of the casualties of COVID because I think it's so expensive to do the rep. Got a lot of pals that were part of that, but yeah, and it's a shame that it's not here anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like all of my answers start really positive and then end really negative. I'm so sorry, Carla.
It's fine.
It's not intentional. So that's what I'd say. But yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you started out so young, obviously, as a child actor. Did you always know that you wanted to carry on acting, as an adult as well, and, pursue formal training and go to Guildhall? And, was that all what you expected it to be, too?
It definitely wasn't all what I expected it to be. I think I had the hubris and the arrogance of being 16 and like fluky and lucky to then, be doing Queen's Nose and like kids CBBC and stuff like that really early on. And I sort of carried on from being sort of 16 right up until 20, 21, and then went to university. And I think at university I flirted with the idea of perhaps being an academic or a director. neither of which I have the patience or the intellect for. I figured out, and then had a kind of year out, um, and then realised, yeah, I do want to be an actor. And so then went to drama school, and it felt it felt like there was a separation between like when I was younger, because even though I was sort of teenage to 20, I looked about 10. So I was playing kids. So yeah, I think it was a whole different start when I went to Guildhall.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, when you went to Guildhall, you already had all of this experience behind you as well. Did it feel challenging, learning to act, or did it all feel quite easy to you?
It definitely felt really challenging. The easy bit was being around 25 other people that also loved acting. I'd never had that before. So I'd been largely on set. So I'd only done two plays. And my experience of being on set is that you sort of have just as much of a relationship with the first AD and the camera and the camera operator than you do with other cast members. So being a part of like a massive cohort was just absolute unbridled joy. Um, yeah, I love that. I guess I put pressure on myself. God, there's that word again. Um, and I still do. But to get it right and to do a good job. Um, and the longer I last and the longer I'm doing this, it feels like I've found ways to take the pressure off.
Mm,
Because it's got to be having a good time at the end. You've got to be having a good time,
yeah.
however serious it is. Um, because essentially it's so silly and it is profound and it's great, all those things. But yeah,
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 of course. I saw Jordan Reese in a couple of his shows at Guildhall over the past year, and
two Jordans, two
yeah, two
Jordans.
Jordans exactly. And clearly, very bright future ahead for that Jordan too.
Yes, yeah,
But
yeah, more handsome and much taller than
yeah, I was like wondering, have you shared your experiences, about going to Guildhall as well? Have you shared any advice with him about, forging a career in this industry too?
We've shared a couple of lunches together, but I've not shared anything like advice yet. I mean, yeah, what do I know? But we no, we've had some chats, um, just informal chats. I guess there's always an enjoyment when someone's been to Guildhall because you have a kind of shorthand. You've been through the same training and you've had similar, if not exactly the same teachers, you know. So yeah, I think it's comforting having someone that you've trained with, like trained at the same school as you, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the industry is also changing in the sense that I feel like a lot of actors are now coming into the industry without having pursued any formal training as well. Do you feel like actors should train, or do you feel like it doesn't really make that much of a difference?
I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. My wife Laura Ellsworthy, is uh, is an actress, and she didn't train, and she's incredible.
Mm,
And I know loads of people. Well, I don't know loads of people, but I know other people that didn't train and also have an innate ability and instinct um, for the craft without doing 3 years at drama school.
mm.
Personally, I felt like I needed to train. I sort of needed the discipline and all that stuff that goes with it. Yeah. I'm not sure how much drama school teaches you how to act. I think you can sort of do that or you can't. I also think everyone can act up to a point. It gives you tools and it also gives you like loads of other people that you come out with, like a network of people to moan with and enjoy with. And it's really nice to have that. Because using Laura as an example, he just has really close friends that she's met on jobs or from workshops or auditions. So I think it's still very much built. The industry is very much built to for you to pass through the pearly gates of one of the prestigious drama schools. Yeah, they like that. But I don't think you need to. You look at some of the guys that are on telly and film, like a lot of them didn't train and they're brilliant. Um, so yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I feel there's still a lot of discussion around elitism in the industry too. I was like wondering, from your perspective, do you feel like much has changed over the years too? Do you feel like theatre has become more accessible to society as well?
Well, I think, yeah, like we were saying, with the Nationals become certainly more inclusive, and and other places have. I think there's still loads more to be done. Of course, there is. I'd hate to start talking about politics because I don't know what I'm talking about. But there's that open door, which I know is only a small thing, but it is still an improvement. And they offer, I think it's like a 6 to 8 month course on how to get in. Because had you not gone to or been around people that have been to, I don't know, certain institutions and schools, then how do you know how to prep an audition?
Mm.
Um, I didn't until I went to the places that sort of teach you how to do that, or I was around people that were yeah that were just more literate to theatre because London's fantastic, but also you might not be from a place where you go to the theatre once a month or twice a month, and you're always going to be 3, 5, 10 steps behind those people that did.
Mm.
If those people become actors or not, just because they've been exposed to it. So it would be good to, yeah, through the open door, but also lots of other things. If lots of other things, this is my policy, people definitely don't vote for me. Lots of other things were available, to yeah, allow people to be on the same page, and to be on the same level, um, because it makes for a more exciting and interesting rehearsal room and shows and films if there's more variety.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I guess coming back to Coriolanus as well, I feel like Shakespeare still gets a bit of a bad rep, with the language feeling a bit too distant to what it is today. What do you think could be done to, improve appreciation for Shakespeare in, wider society?
I think, wow, yeah. I think it's always going to get a little bit of a bad rep because it's 400 years old or whatever. But I think if it was seen more, you know, and done more, like, in schools. Because sometimes actors, like I was saying to you earlier, like sometimes they're not the best people to be doing it because we show off and do sort of metaphorical gymnastics with it because we want to, be center of attention. Get the experts in, get the English teachers in, get the people that know what they're talking about when you're 7, when you're 10, when you're 12, saying what feels like silly words in your mouth and and feeling confident with that by the time you finish school. I think that's how you do it. I came to drama school feeling really intimidated, and I think I was 24 when I went to drama school. Yeah, around that sort of time, 23, 24. And I'd done quite a bit of work since then, before then, but I still felt really intimidated by it. So yeah, I think seeing it and doing it is the only, I guess, like, if you want to be a footballer, you got to start kicking a football against the wall. It's a terrible analogy, but you can't hope to get good at it just by, you know, um, yeah, by not doing it, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting. Just as a last question, what do you hope audiences will take away with them when they come and see Coriolanus?
that that this was the finest set of tribunes they've ever seen. And that democracy is difficult but very precious.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jordan Metcalfe, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Carlos.